Today in this video, we're going to talk about why no money down does not mean no money is needed. Check it out. Hi, I'm Rhonda Burgess, and I'm a real estate broker and mortgage underwriter here in the Nashville, Tennessee area. And I'm going to continue working on the series of how to buy a house in 2026 and beyond. So I want to do this video because I need to clarify something. I know a lot of people, when you see, especially if you're a first-time buyer, you see all these zero down, no money down needed, 100% financing as far as getting a mortgage. And you thinking, okay, cool, that's what I need. And that may very well be the loan for you. But what I want to explain to you is that just because a loan, a mortgage does not require a down payment, you still need several $1,000s normally to close on your house, to be able to purchase your house. The first place where you're going to need money is you're going to need money in your reserves. You're going to need at least 2 months PITI. That's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. You're going to need to have that in your bank account to be able to qualify for your mortgage. You're going to need money. You're going to need reserves, meaning you're going to need money after closing. Okay? The second place you're going to need money is when you are purchasing a property. You have to put up a earnest money deposit or a trust money deposit, however you want to call it. You've got to put that up. Okay. Now, there's no set dollar amount that has to be, but I will tell you this, that a lot of times when you're looking at, especially new construction, they want you to put up 3% earnest money or 3.5% earnest money. And when I'm talking in percentages, I'm talking of the purchase price. So I'm just going to let me use this for even numbers. If you're trying to purchase a $200,000 house, 3% is $6,000. That is how much money you would have to put up when you write your contract. And the earnest money does go towards your closing costs at the end. But the earnest money or trust money is normally to show the seller or the builder that you are serious about this, that you have the qualifications to get your mortgage approved, and that you have money and that you're putting some skin in the game up front. Okay. We used to, back in the day, we used to write really low earnest money deposits, like 100, 200, 500. But these days, you need to understand that when you write a contract, and you give it to the seller, right? And then the seller accepts it. Y'all may go back and forth, whatever. But once the seller agrees to those terms, you have taken that house off the market. You've taken that house off the market. Like it will no longer be listed as active in your MLS. This means that the seller is expecting you to close. So they're not going to be showing this house anymore, right? If it's a builder, the builder is going to put that sold sign up in the window. The builder is going to then order whatever finishes, whatever colors, whatever color cabinets, whatever it is that you want. The builder is then taking this house from being a spec house, a speculative home, meaning other people could buy it. They're going to lock everybody else out of this house. They're going to go to work on what you picked out as your colors, as your cabinets, as your everything. Okay. It's all centered on you. Because you have taken this property off the market, you have taken it where no one else can, you've made this house where no one else can really buy it. The seller and the builder want you to have some skin in the game to show that you're serious. And so therefore too, let's say they go through all of this with you and then you end up changing your mind, then you're going to lose your earnest money or you're going to lose that trust money, right? Because you're tying up the seller. You're tying up other people's money. You're tying up all kind of stuff. And if it's a domino, meaning the house that you're buying, that seller is buying somebody else's house. And they may be buying somebody else's house. So you got to be the first domino to fall for everybody else to be able to do their transactions and buy their new properties. So they want a sizable earnest money deposit, because if something goes wrong through no fault of your own, but let's just say you change your mind. You wake up tomorrow and you decide, I don't want to do that. That's cool. But you're not finna tie these people up and have them waste time and waste money. So that way, that's why they require normally a larger earnest money deposit, because of the time that's going to be tied up. Okay? Because then they can say, well, then the seller can come back and say, or the builder can come back and say they're entitled to that money because you breached. You breached for some reason or another. I don't know. It is a whole bunch of reasons why you could end up breaching that contract. But that way, the seller has some money that they can hold on to, that they can, to use to compensate themselves for the time they wasted with you. So you got to have your 2 months PITI minimum. It's always good to have more. That's a compensating factor when you have more than 2 months. So that way may help you to get your deal closed, to get your mortgage approved. Then too, you got to have your earnest money deposit. Okay. Now, once we get past that, we're going to get down to the appraisal. So your lender is going to order an appraisal. An appraiser comes out and gives a value as to how much this house is worth. Okay. Because the bank is not going to lend you more than what the house is worth. Okay. So if you wrote a contract for $200,000, that appraisal has to appraise. It has to come back for at least $200,000. Because if it comes back for $195,000, then we got to go back and renegotiate and everything, because that it's not worth the $200,000 that everybody agreed to in that contract. So we've got to redo that. But okay, a lot of times we used to just wrap the appraisal in with the closing costs, right? So your lender may have said, okay, the appraisal is going to be $450 and it'll be included in your closing costs, and they'll keep it moving. Well, what happened was, after the market imploded, like 08, 07, 08, 09, they made it where those it's separated now. I used to could call up when we were doing loans. I used to could call up my favorite appraiser and be like, hey girl, I need for you to go. The property is 123 Main Street. Here's a copy of the contract, everything. Here's the contact information for the seller's agent or the seller. And I just need that appraisal back whenever you get it back. Cool. Okay. After the mortgage meltdown in 08, 09, they separated it. They said that the mortgage broker or the mortgage lender being tied with the appraiser, that was collusion. And so they were saying that the lender could influence that appraiser to say, girl, I done sent you 12 this month, or I sent you 12 last month. So I know this one may be a little shaky on that value, but I really need that value to come in at 200 because I need for these people to close. You see that? So what they did was they separated it and they made appraisal management companies, AMCs. So now what happens is, when you get into contract on this property that you're going to buy, what's going to happen is your lender is then going to go to the AMC, to the appraisal management company. And the only thing they're going to do, they're going to put in an order. They're going to say, hey, I need an appraisal at 123 Main Street. These are the details. This is the contract. I just need an appraisal. Okay. So that way the lender does not know who the appraiser is. The lender therefore cannot influence the appraiser. You see what I'm saying? So what then the appraisal management company, they got a list of appraisers. And what they do is they just go pick one. It may be the person closest to that property, or it may be, a person who does all of their, most of their FHA loans or VA loans or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So they choose the AMC chooses the appraiser. The appraiser then gets in touch with the seller agent. They're oblivious to influence that way. Okay. But also when they separated that from the originator being able to pick the appraiser, then you, the buyer, you need to pay for that appraisal up front. Because see, you can't leave the AMC holding the bag. You can't leave the appraisal management company unpaid. You can't do that. You see what I'm saying? So since that's separated and it's not included in your closing costs, then you as the buyer need to pay for that appraisal up front. So they'll send you an invoice. They'll send you a link where you can pay for your appraisal. And your originator, your loan originator will tell you this at your appointment. So you're going to get a call, you're going to get an email from the AMC, and you need to pay for that appraisal so we can, keep it moving. Okay, so you got to pay earnest money, PITI, you got to pay for an appraisal. Now, not only that, the next thing you're going to need to pay for as the buyer is you need to pay for the home inspection. A home inspection and an appraisal are two totally separate things. Two totally separate things. An appraisal is just to determine the value, period. That's it. It's all about how much is the property worth. Okay? There's nothing else to it. The home inspection, that's for you. That's for you. A home inspection is normally done by, the price is determined normally by your square foot. So let's just say on average, a home inspection going to be another, $500. Let's just use a round number, okay? Find you a licensed home inspector to have the home inspection done. Now, they don't have to be licensed. If your Uncle Leroy, he used to be a builder or whatever, or you feel comfortable with it, or you feel comfortable doing it yourself, you can do the home inspection yourself. You don't have to have a state licensed professional, even though it is recommended, but you don't have to do that. So you can do the home inspection yourself. But for most of us, cause see, I ain't finna go in no crawl space. I'm not finna go in no crawl space. I'm not looking up on the roof. I'm not getting up on the roof. I'm not getting on the ladder. I'm not finna do that. So for those of us who will depend on a licensed home inspector to do the home inspection, you got to pay them. But the home inspector, listen, an appraiser will be in that house for about 15, 30 minutes tops. The appraiser is going to take pictures of the front, the back, the different rooms. It's going to measure the square feet. It's going to go on the outside, measure your square feet, all this stuff. The appraiser, again, going to be there 15, 30 minutes top. A home inspector should be there at least 2 hours. At least 2 hours. Because they're going to go over that house. They're going to test out all the systems, your heat and air, your water. Does it have a good water pressure? Do it not have good water pressure? What's the age of the water heater? What's the age of the HVAC? This, that, and the third. They're going to go over that house from top to bottom. I always suggest you be at the home inspection if you can. If your schedule will allow it, go to the home inspection. You don't need to be there for the appraisal. The appraiser don't want to be bothered with you. They just in there. They just come in to take pictures, get the square foot. They're gone. Okay, they gone. The home inspection, they're telling you about that property. And a good home inspector will tell you things to look out for in the future should you complete the purchase on this house. They may tell you, okay, you know what? The roof got about 3 more good years on it. You might want to start putting a little money on the side to get you a new roof. Or the roof is almost at the end of its life. So then you need to make a decision. Ooh, do I really want to do this when I know this thing gonna need a roof next year and next 2 years? Or do I go back and negotiate that? You know what I'm saying? Because there's different things that's gonna come up on that home inspection, and some things might freak you out if you ain't never dealt with a sump pump. Okay, and they're telling you this is how this is, and this, that, and the other. They may find mold. They may find all kind of things. They may find termites. Then that's up to you if you want to go forward with that property, or do you want to negotiate some more money, or them to put on a new roof, or to have the termites treated, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just different things that may come up. That's why a home inspection is so important. But again, you pay for the home inspection. You pay for that up front. It's best to get your home inspection done as quickly as possible. The way I do it is I do my home inspection first before I pay for my appraisal. Because why am I going to pay for an appraisal on a house that I'm not going to buy? Because that home inspection might freak me out. You know what I'm saying? It may be something like, baby, I can't deal with that. No. No, my spirit was already telling me this wasn't the right one or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So I always get the home inspection done ASAP. As soon as I'm under contract, I want the home inspection done that week. Because that way, if we need to punt and go find something else, we can punt. We can say, you look here, Miss Seller, look, you got too many issues with this here, and we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do this. Or you got time to say, okay, you know what? I know we agreed on 200, but since it needs this, that, and the third, I only want to pay 180. See, then you're going to have to go, you got to negotiate and everything. Then you got to get a newly ratified contract if you're changing the price. Then you take that back to your originator and then let them order the appraisal. But you need to pay for the home. You need to get the home inspection done as quickly as possible once you're under contract. Okay. So again, do you see how I'm just adding stuff here that you need to pay for out of pocket? This is why zero down don't mean zero money is needed. You need money. Okay, again, 2 months PITI. Okay, earnest money deposit, which could be as much as 3.5% or more. Because especially when you get into your higher end properties, they normally charge even higher. They want you to put up even more. Let me say it like that. As far as the earnest money deposit is concerned, then you got an appraisal. Then you got a home inspection. Do you see? And we ain't even closed yet. We haven't even closed yet. You need money. Don't let that zero down 100% financing fool you. Okay. Now, then we're going to once we get all of that done. Okay. One thing you may need to remember is your homeowner's insurance. Your homeowner's agent might require you to pay a month or two up front before your policy even starts. They may want you to pay for a whole year. That just depends on your insurance. You know, again, pull your clue report. So that way you know what you're looking at before your insurance agent start talking to you. Because if they start talking crazy and you know you ain't got nothing on your clue report, you may want, that may give you some leverage. But anyway, on your homeowner's insurance, you may need to pay a month or 2 or 6 up front. I don't know. That's between you and your insurance people. Okay. And we've had to do this before. Let's say your DTI is really, we ain't got no room. We ain't got no, that's how much room we got. We ain't got no room. Okay. So sometimes what we've had people do is to pay 6 months worth of that homeowners, 6 to 12 months of that homeowners up front. So that can bring down the monthly amount of your homeowner's insurance, which will work for your DTI. So see, there's too many variables to say how much you would need for the homeowner's insurance. It's just too many variables. Okay. And then finally, you got closing costs. Closing costs on a home will normally be anywhere from 3 to 6% of the purchase price, if not more. Because if you're paying for your own title insurance and the seller or the builder is not, that's a sizable amount right there. That could really, increase your closing costs. So you're going to have closing costs. Closing costs is where everybody gets paid who's done something in this loan. Okay. So depending on the real estate broker you're dealing with, some of them have transaction fees that you will have to pay as part of your closing costs. Your origination fees, discount points, tax service fee, underwriting fee, processing fee. There's all kind of fees right there. Okay. Just to your originator or your originating bank. Okay. Then you've got title. You got to pay to close it. You got to pay the title insurance, different things like that. You've got to pay the prepaid odd days interest, depending on what day of the month you close. That could be a whole month worth of mortgage payment. Who knows? It depends on when you're closing. But normally just count that. Just to be safe. This is why I tell my people, count on 6% for closing costs. Because that way, in case you end up paying for the title insurance yourself, I've even seen where sometimes the seller makes the buyer pay for the tax stamps when you got to pay for the tax stamps. You got to pay the tax man when you buy. Okay. So I'm just saying there's so many things included in closing costs. So always, in my opinion, budget 6% for closing costs. So let's say you've wrote an offer for $200,000. It's been accepted by the seller. Okay. Everything's cool with the home inspection. You're not really freaked out about nothing. So y'all still agree on the $200,000. But let's say, for instance, that the seller only had enough room to pay 4% of your closing costs and you need 6%. You 2% short. 2% on $200,000 is $4,000. Where's that coming from? Do you see why you need money? I told y'all I always get this pushback when I say that the people who just have like SSI or disability, you need someone with some substantial income, not only to make the DTI work, but it makes no sense to me. I'm sorry. This just don't make no sense to me right here. You can get approved for $100,000. You can get approved 100% financing and you can't close because you ain't got no money. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like, you've done all this work to make sure that you can get 100% financing. So you getting a USDA, you getting a VA, or even if you doing a FHA, you got a grant from your city, from your government. You got a grant from somewhere to cover that 3.5%. to go with the 96.5 that you get from FHA. So you got 100% financing and you think you doing something, but you ain't got a dollar to your name. Otherwise, you're not finna close. You need money. You need money. Start saving your money. Just like I told y'all to start at least 6 to 12 months ahead of time when you decide you're gonna buy a house. Not only that, you need to start saving your money, because you will need money. Zero down does not mean zero money. Okay. Again, thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a blessed day.